Gusto niyo pa background music? Ayan, let's go. Any more? Like, probably we have working professionals joining with us today. Ayan. I see so many beautiful faces. And if you're willing, can you open your cam so we can see your beautiful faces, get to know each other, somehow simulate the feeling of togetherness. Kahit, we're just in the online setting. Okay. So if you're comfortable lang naman. Ayan, thank you for the heart reacts, Miss Felicia. I love that. Yes. I love it. I love the energy. I love the energy in this call. Ayan, feel free to introduce yourself also in the chat from time to time, Let's get to know each other more. Malay nyo nga nandito nga ang inyong forever. Who knows, 'di ba? At dahil dyan, we will now begin. And hello, good evening, fellow UXers. This officially marks the second day of our week-long UX&Chill initiative. We are excited for you guys to be part of this journey. And we can't wait for you to see the activities we have in store for you today. My name is Vera Desado, your techie tita, Mamacita from 3 ABCom. And I am your host for tonight's UX&Chill. I will be taking you through some fun, exciting, and insightful activities for day 2 of UX&Chill. I love that. Can you give me some heart reacts naman? Ayan, I would like to see some hearts in this call. Ayan, thank you for that. So, what are we waiting for? So, let's start off this event with a raffle. Ayan, salamat UX Society. And also our co-presenter, UX Philippines. So UX Philippines is a local non-profit organization that hosts the country's largest and exciting network of design professionals, enthusiasts, and the like. So they will be needing your help, you netizen watching this, to answer their survey. So come join us and be part of the hopeful lucky winners. So you may be asking, Vera, ano nga ba ang prize sa raffle na to? Nako, thank you for asking. Yes, so you could get a chance to win what? A Figma Pro 3-month license or a discount on Interaction Design Foundation or IDF courses. So, if you want those, if you want free things, ang gagawin nyo na ay magsagutan ng ating survey. So, feel free to do so and click the link in our chat box or scan the QR code in the slide. Ayan, we have ang high-tech nga naman natin. Syempre, let's use our QR code or probably, our link in the chat box. So be curious and engage with us in our activities today. It is highly expected for a chance to win. Wow, meron na naman pa prize. 150 pesos worth of Grab vouchers. Ay, wow, salamat nga naman talaga UX Society, Tibag ang 1212. So that will depend on how well you participate. So don't miss out on your chance of grabbing these awesome giveaways. So we'll be giving you 3 minutes or so to answer our survey. Guys, if I were you, kung hindi lang ako nag-host, siguradong sinagutan ko na yan. Siguradong akin na lahat ng prizes because who doesn't love free stuff as a tita? Ayan. So, okay, while you guys are answering our survey, so just scan the QR code or go to the link down below. Wow, we have students also. We have a USD alumna. Hello then again, fellow Tigers. Roar! Ayan, tama nga naman. We love the spirit. And also we have George Cardo Bangana from Muntinlupa. Hello, George Cardo. I already met you on our game afternoon last Saturday. That was very fun. It's good to see you again in this workshop. Ayan. So feel free then again to chat down below. Introduce yourself. Let's get to know each other even more. And also, while we're waiting, let's also answer the survey. Guys, UX Philippines really needs your help, in answering this survey. So as we all know, as we are all familiar with, UX research is also part of the process. So ayan, maging pahagi tayo ng proseso. Wow, guys, nagustuhan niyo ba yung connection ko doon? Ayan, I love that. Okay. So ayan, then again, hello to our newcomers. We will be giving you time to to answer our survey for a chance to win Figma Pro 3-month license or discounts on IDF courses. So you could just scan the QR code or go to the link down in the chat box. Ayan, we love free things. I think yun ang commonality natin aside for our love for user experience. So let's get that prize, sabi nga ni Miss Felicia. So ayan. So let's go. Let's answer that. Okay. So then again, you could still answer the survey from time to time. But we will now formally start off our event. So then again, we would like to welcome everybody to this year's UX&Chill production, where you get to revel in your creativity and unleash your inner artist. Because not even the pandemic can extinguish your passion for user experience. So this week, we will be having a bunch of exciting talks and workshops for you to learn from, taught by the best. Yes, when I say the best design and UX professionals in the industry to showcase, how user experience design can empower users in the face of the digital normal. Yes, the digital normal indeed. So across my screen, I could already feel the energy, I could feel people engaging also. So without further ado, let's dive in as I introduce to you our guest speaker. So for today's workshop on how to set up your design portfolio for success, our guest is currently a product designer at Caliber, a company that helps job seekers find their dream jobs. I love that. So he also designs for TayoHelp.com, a website that assists Filipino Americans navigate the COVID-19 pandemic. So before I introduce our distinguished speaker for today, so should you have any questions throughout the workshops, please do not hesitate to ask questions through our Slido. Yes, may pa-Slido ulit si Mayor. So you may access it then again in through our QR code, so you can just scan that, or you may also click the link in our chat box. So then again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask it through our Slido, or you can do it through our QR code, or click the link in our chat box. Yes, I could feel you, Arvik. I love the woo. Yes. So I'm sure our UXers and our speaker as well are very much excited to learn tonight. So let's give a round of clapping emojis. And I want to see you. Please give me some clapping emojis for Jiggy Villanueva.
Hey,
Yeah.
hi guys, good evening. Grabe naman ang energy ng host natin tonight.
Yeah.
Sana matapatan ko, pero I'll do my very best. So, hi guys, good evening. Thank you guys for coming, and I guess thank you UXOC for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm really happy that you guys invited me over to talk a little bit about my experience and the things I've learned for the past few days, past few years. Ayan. So, okay, I'll start my presentation. I'll just try to share my screen here. Ayan. So, the question of, I guess, the pandemic, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Beautiful.
All right, great. So, again, thank you, UXOC, for allowing me to speak to you guys. So, for today, I'm going to be sharing you the things I learned about design portfolios and how to set yours up for success. So before I start, I know I've already seen some of you guys shout out in the comments, in the chat. So if you could just tell me what kind of designer you are you a student, what design field you're interested in entering, just so I know parang who's in the room right now. So throughout the talk, just let me know who or what you guys do for fun for in terms of like design, right? So all right, so we're going to talk about designing portfolios. This session is going to be divided up into two parts. So I'll have a talk first, and then later on we'll have a mini workshop about writing out your case studies, which I will discuss further on in the talk. So before I start, I just wanted to let you guys know a little bit about myself. So hi, I'm Jiggy. I'm a product designer at Caliber, and as well as a freelance designer at home. So I work at Caliber. Like what our host mentioned, it's a HR tech startup or a HR tech company that really aims to allow job seekers or people looking for jobs to connect to their dream careers or dream jobs. I work with very familiar faces, so you might know them around UXOC, and you might also have a talk with them later on in the week. But my role as a product designer at Caliber, someone who plays in like the HR space, and as a freelance designer, it really opened me to opportunities to understand the process of recruiting a designer in particular. And I think one of the key ways or one of the key things that your recruiter or an employer, a potential employer or potential client would look at is your portfolio, among many things, which is why it's important for us as designers or as someone who's starting out in their careers to really nail or try to express themselves through their portfolios. So before I start this talk, I want to share something more about myself. I'm talking about portfolios, but currently I really don't have like a public portfolio that I guess most of people in the industry like consider as like a portfolio, like a website or a social media page, stuff like that. So yeah, so I know what you're probably thinking right now. Oh my God, what the fuck is this guy going to talk about? Wala siyang portfolio. Cancel her now. But before you do that, before you go to Twitter, before you um, fill out your UX SOC eval forms, let me try to explain myself, and hopefully throughout the course of the talk, I can let you guys know my thought process in terms of like what kind of portfolio I ended up having. So I think part of the reason why I really don't have a public portfolio, or I think part of the reason why I'm hesitant of making one, is that even though I'm, I guess, a little bit more experienced, like around 1.5 years in the industry already, I'm still really afraid of that big hairy P. And the big hairy P in particular that I'm talking about right now are portfolios, the bane of existence of every designer, kasi it's the actual embodiment of their work, and in some cases their worth, which is not necessarily true. When we're thinking about our portfolios, when we're starting out especially, we're always wrapped up with a lot of anxiety and doubt about ourselves, because when we think about our past work, lumalabas dyan yung mga questions like, where should I start? What kind of work should I parang present? What should I put in a portfolio? Would people care? And it's really when these questions start to become statements that you repeat to yourselves that you stop yourself from making a portfolio altogether. You're asking, would people care? And then it turns to, oh no, they won't. So yung portfolio mo na sinabi mo na you'll do it in a week, you'll put it off for months, even maybe years. And I think the way we really see portfolios is parang it's always overwhelming. Kasi parang the task in mind that you have is trying to make sure that you scrape the last morsel of your work barrel, or the things you've done before, and make sure that the things you're presenting would land you that dream job or would land you that project. But throughout, I guess, the course of my experience, I've realized na a portfolio shouldn't be like a one-time thing that you finish in one summer or one week of your life, but it's something that's continuous. And I think in that continuous process of updating your portfolio or creating that system for yourself, dun nawawala yung anxiety of having that portfolio. So today, I'll probably share some of the three key lessons that helped me try to squash some of these doubts and some of these questions that I have in mind. So really for me, we start with trying to define what a portfolio is. So a portfolio, basically how we understand it, it's a document of your past works. And it can have different forms, it can take up different mediums. It also has different goals. It could be something that you keep to keep track of your progress in terms of your career, or something that you want to show off to your peers. But for the purposes of this talk, and I guess in general, what we mostly make portfolios for is for potential clients and employers. So I'll be taking that perspective or that mindset for you guys tonight. For me, in terms of that mindset, a portfolio is anything that can help you communicate your professional value to another person. Um, that kind of parang dismantles our initial understanding of our portfolio, that it should be something like a website, or it should be a slide deck that has like pretty pictures. But essentially, if anything can communicate your professional value to another person as a designer, that could be considered as your portfolio already. So we want to emphasize the keywords here, the professional value. When I learned about this concept before, I really cling to it, not just in like trying to create a portfolio, but trying to assess I think my skill level, or yung worth ko, quote unquote, as a designer to, let's say, a client or a company. Ultimately, what you want your portfolio and other artifacts like your resume or your LinkedIn profile to be is that you want to communicate ano ba yung pwede kong magawa for you, yung client or company. Ano ba yung pwede ko idala sa company mo or sa project na to. So how we communicate that professional value is what should be at the heart, I guess, of our portfolio. Keeping in mind na, at the end of the day, we might think of our portfolio as really like a reflection of ourselves. But objectively speaking, if we're talking about a transactional experience between you and a potential recruiter, it's all about making money, right? So you have to make sure that your portfolio communicates how, to put it very frank or very blunt, how you can make money for your client, or how can you bring value to your client, right? So with that in mind, there are, I guess, three big things that I really wanted to emphasize in terms of communicating your professional value. So those are trying to know your audience, trying to write out your content first, and trying to present your work. So these are some of the, I guess you could call them 3 steps in the process of creating a portfolio for me. So I think the key here is trying to trying to treat your portfolio as a project or a product or a brand, and how you would approach that project. You should apply the same type of care and intention into sharing your portfolio, because ultimately what you want to promote or what you want to showcase is your skills as a designer, or yourself in particular. So let's go through these one by one. The first one is trying to know your audience. So when we think of creating a portfolio, we almost always automatically go to trying to write out or trying to create a visual for the work that we did. Kasi that's what we've been, programmed to do. Ang nakikita natin is the finished product already of, like, let's say, a designer or someone in the creative field. They always have a really good visual in hand. But what's valuable about knowing your audience is that it can allow you to have a foundation with the things that you really need to include in your portfolio. So in order for us to understand this concept better, I want to introduce you guys to 2 personas that would allow you to give a sense of like what kind of recruiters are out there right now. So I'll introduce you to Steph. She's a CEO of a logistics startup, and she's looking for a freelance and part-time designer. Before we go into Steph, let me introduce you to John. So John, he's a product manager of a fashion e-commerce app, and siya naman, he's looking for a full-time designer for his team. So going back to Steph, I think what's important about trying to know who your audience is for your portfolio, or trying to know the objectives that you have for your portfolio, is that you can identify the things that you have to highlight eventually in your portfolio, or that you have to like work towards to have that, right? Hindi naman it shouldn't come to a degree na you're sucking up, or parang you're just allowing them to hear what they want to hear, but it gives you a good framework of what they're trying to look for in a designer, not necessarily in your works, right? So I'll explain more of that later on. So let's take Steph. She's a CEO again, and as a CEO of a probably busy logistics startup, she only probably has like around 5 minutes to look at your portfolio. So ano yung mga things na she would probably look for in that body of work? Maybe as a CEO of a really fast-paced startup, she wants to know if you've done similar work before. Let's say she's looking for a UX and UI designer. Have you had projects wherein you created a mobile app interface for another company or another project? Or have you done side projects or mock projects in that area? In terms of logistics as an industry, she might be particular with your experience with industry companies. So plus siguro sa kanya na parang, oh, you work for Lalamove or you work for Expedoc, something like that. Another thing that might be important for her is that if ever she's hiring you for one ad hoc project or one project with a very limited timeline, can you talk to different stakeholders alone in like a one-man team, and can you drive a project from start to launch? So those are some of the things that you'll probably look for in your case studies or in your portfolio. If not necessarily if you've done work like this before, which I kind of mentioned here, pero if you have the capacity or you have parang the aptitude to do the things that she wants to do for her company. I think same goes for John. Pero the thing that we see with bigger design teams or bigger corporate teams in general is that if they're looking for a full-time designer, they're probably looking for someone who is more serious and detail oriented because they want someone who can adapt quickly to a set process or a set workflow that they have. So pag malaking company yan, usually meron na silang mga tools or meron na silang mga methodologies that they already have in place and they want you to be a team player. So John will probably be looking for those qualities in your portfolio. Can you walk him through using your portfolio through your design process, the key decisions that you made throughout that, and have you worked with a team before, or have you worked with different stakeholders before? So those are the things that probably someone like a John would find, and not to, I guess, try to intimidate you guys, especially if you're coming from someone who's like a fresh grad who don't really know how to get this information from your stakeholders. What we've found is that the key things that almost all recruiters really look for is yung penchant mo or yung drive mo to really commit to a design process or just to stick to a design process and have the ability to express or articulate why that particular step, that particular process, that particular design decision, right? So if you were going to take anything from, like, let's say, this section of the talk is that what's really important for your portfolio is to lay out your process. And if you have the opportunity to, let's say, network with a recruiter from that dream company that you're eyeing, or listen out to, like, let's say, UXPH on Facebook or other communities online about how these companies recruit, then you'll have a really good foundation of what you can put on your portfolio. Because in the end, a great portfolio is one that was made with their audience's needs in mind. As with any product or as with any brand naman, we always try to look for ano ba yung mga kailangan ng users ko? Ano ba yung mga kailangan ng customers ko? Your customers here are your potential employers or potential clients, right? Plus points if you can really nail what they're looking for. Let's say they're looking for someone very specific in this industry and you somehow parang fit that bill and you really like the company, go show them that. In my experience personally, I have had an experience wherein like a company is looking for a designer, pero they're very in like a niche industry. So I really don't have like a particular experience in that industry per se, pero may related industry na parang medyo same yung naging problem space or naging problem nila na they're trying to solve. So what I did is craft a really concise email na, hey, I did work for this company before who delves into this industry, but I think what I learned there can really be valuable for you. So really trying to curate and trying to tailor those things towards your audience. Again, you're not trying to make sure that they hear what they want to hear, or trying to parang be a suck up or something, for lack of a better term. Pero again, it's all about trying to make sure that you're catering the at the very least yung mga information that they're looking for. Let's say, are you a team player? What's your process? It's clearly conveyed in your portfolio. So, okay, that's for point number one. So for the second point, write out your content first. If you're familiar with content first design in web design or UX design, it's probably similar. In your portfolio, I think it's going to give you a easier time if you really focus on writing out your content first. When we think of like again, when we think of art portfolios, we want to think about the visuals agad, kasi that's really the thing that is the most gratifying to see early on in the process. If you can see what your portfolio can look like, parang medyo okay na yun for me. But again, it's not bad. Like I will discuss as well later on in the talk how important visuals are and the right medium is for your portfolio. But I guess if you start with visuals, it will really slow you down in terms of like crafting a really good message or a really good write-up for your portfolio. So instead of starting out in a Photoshop file or in a Figma file, you might want to start out in a Notion doc or a Google Doc like this. No preference naman. So, sorry. So writing out your works first can really help you focus on the important details of that work and craft a messaging that can be, fit to your audience, right? We talked about Steph and um, we talked about Steph and we talked about John a while ago. What would they want to see in your portfolio? You can definitely craft that message well if you do your content first. So, and parang naturally, what we tend to ask when people say these things online is that, okay, I should write it down first. But there's so many ways wherein you can write down your case study. Should I do like a really whole big paragraph? Is it going to be like a novel type? Should it be like tweet size? Ano ba yung pinaka-effective? As with anything, it really depends on your preference. But I think the key takeaway here is that you want to create clear case studies of your work. So a case study is, for me, is like trying to define a body of work. Let's say if you're a brand designer, a branding project, if you're a social media manager, a campaign.
It's common when people with HIV are not taking treatment, but they could.
Oh, sorry. So yes, please go HIV. Anyway, HIV advocacy. Anyway, yeah, let's say you're a social media manager, yung campaign, how are you able to structure it? Case studies is taking that body of work and trying to distill it in like a structured way. Na parang it's almost consistent with your other works. So when, let's say, your audience or like let's say a potential recruiter or client comes in, they know what to look for dun sa mga documents na present mo. So for in terms of like case study formats, you'll find a lot of them online, and I think anything would work well. What I've noticed though is that may mga similar elements sila na are worth like discussing. So usually a case study would have like project title, project timeline, your role, project summary, the challenge, the solution that you come up with, and the outcome. So I'll just go through the first three really quickly. So project title is pretty self-explanatory. Plus points if it's creative. I think some recruiters like that, or some of your audience like that. Depends. If it's more of like a formal setting, like a corporate setting, you might want to skip that. Project timeline is important because it gauges, for them, it gauges kung gaano ka kabilis mag-work or how long a project would take under your hand. So that's important to note then as well. Your role is very crucial as well in answering, are you a team, the question, are you a team player? You make sure you be very honest with the role that you've done, especially if it's a team effort. But at the same time, make sure you take ownership of the things that you did. So let's say you're the product designer for a product team. Nung college ako, when we were doing PM, I was the product designer for our thesis group. So that whole effort is a team effort. Pero how do I articulate yung ginawa ko? And how do I take ownership? It's good to be humble, pero the things na kailangan mong it's all about taking ownership. Why you really consolidated the user insights from your client, and then you make sure that you mention that role. Or let's say you created the mocks na you stayed up late for, diba? So you make sure that you mention that role as well. So I think the last three bullet points that really encompass the project summary or the project write-up, I'll go into it deeper. And for the other parts of the case studies, we'll go into much more depth later in the workshop. So moving on to what encompasses the project summary. Like if you're going to take anything away from this section, it's that you should structure your case studies around these three parts. So the first one is the challenge or the main problem. Essentially, what you want to articulate in this section is the main problem that your client or your problem really requires you to solve. So let's say you're already, some of you guys are already experienced designers. You probably had work before. So ano yung naging problem ng client mo, or ano yung naging problem ng team mo when you entered that project? If let's say you're starting from you're just starting out and you're really looking for things to make a case study out of, or like side projects, a good way of like making one up, quote unquote, is to look at, let's say you can start with like an industry or a type of app that you want to do, and zero in on a problem that they have. Don't start with like a existing solution. Like we see designers in Dribble or in Behance now, redesigning the Spotify app or redesigning the Facebook app. I think the thing that they're missing sometimes in their case studies is yung problem that they're trying to solve. So it's good if you start out with a problem that you want to solve. So let's say unprovoked or walang lumapit sa'yo, but you're really into HIV awareness, that cause. So parang ano yung mga problems in that space that you can make a case study out of. And it's good for your portfolio na you really articulate it well, concisely well, dun sa start no, or not really sa start, but within your portfolio. So you should probably articulate that relative to who your users are, what their business is, and what their requirements are, and ano yung pain points that your project or that your work is trying to solve. It's also good to note there kung ano yung mga technical constraints that you have. Like, if you're working with HIV awareness, let's say government is definitely something that's restricting any efforts there. Or let's say yung stigma around HIV is something na it could not necessarily a technical constraint, but it's like a constraint for your work. So it's worth noting that's a challenge, because it makes the recruiter or your audience know that you really consider the problem really well before you try to solve it. So of course, the next part there is trying to articulate yung solution. Again, what I mentioned before, if you're taking away anything from figuring out who your audience is and what they need, as a designer or as a creative, they're probably looking, I guess at the top of that list is your design process or your method in which you solve these problems. And I think it encompasses any design field, or any field for that matter, whether that's advertising or architecture. For sure, there's a user problem or a structural problem that you're trying to solve. And in order to solve that problem, you need to articulate your solution. And what's valuable for your stakeholders or your audience is that yung what they pay for is your thinking. What was your mindset in like approaching this problem, and can you replicate that, or can you have that parang attitude towards the project that they want you to work on. And I think another important part of like the solution part of your case study would be trying to mention or trying to outline kung ano yung mga key decisions that you made as a designer or as a part of that team. And how did you make those decisions relative to stakeholders, to users, to your client or that company? I So decisions can be varied things, right? One could be like a stakeholder decision. Oh, I decided not to show this to a part of another department because blah, 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 blah. It could be a design decision. Oh, I chose a blue button because I think blue buttons are cool. So let your recruiter decide for himself if like him or herself, if that, I think, line of process or considerations is good for that project or that company. And of course, how did the features of your work address the objectives or the metrics that you established, or the main problem that you established dun sa problem or the challenge section previously? Ano yung naging outcome nung work mo that made the thing, or that made the company or that made the client better off with you, right? So coming into the next part of this project summary or the case study that we want to do, we want to articulate the outcome of that work or the outcome of your case study, right? Outcome for me, what we've learned so far, and I think in the industry, is that there's people who say like outcome and output are different things. And I think from what I've understand is that outcome is definitely something better in terms of like impact than presenting output. So I'll briefly like just discuss that. So output is kung ano yung magawa mo na asset. So let's say you're UX and UI designer, and output would be yung device mocks mo or yung screens mo. If you're a brand manager or a brand designer, your output would be the packaging design. It's well and good to really show that output and to show how well you've crafted that deliverable for your client. But at the same time, I think the most important thing that you want to show is what was the outcome because of your output. Sorry. So what was ano yung naging outcome nung ginawa mo yung output? So let's say you're a social media manager again. Yung output mo would be the campaign that you made. PubMats, audience studies, user research, yun yung mga deliverables mo. The outcome is yung naging engagement or the metrics that you saw once you pushed out your campaign, and what it gave the company, what value it gave the company. So there are a few things that you can use to show outcomes. One of them, again, is success metrics. So let's say you and your client agreed on a set of things that you want to accomplish at the end of the project. Na-meet mo ba yun? Did you exceed it? Did you not exceed it? Why or why not? Ultimately, did you meet your stakeholders' expectations? They expected something really fast. Were you able to accommodate that? What could have been done better? And what are your next steps? So the next two parts are really important because it shows your audience, your clients, na it shows them that you're not looking at a project or you're not looking at the work parang in that timeline lang. Now you're also looking out for them towards the bigger picture. So in terms of like what you could have done better, you care enough to make sure that you're articulating what are some of the things that I really didn't do well. Hindi ko kasi siya strength, or there's something that got in the way. So ano yung pwede kong gawin in next time you hire me, or next time someone else picks up the project? And what are your next steps? So how do you identify future work such that parang people can rely on you to really set the vision for, let's say, a product, a brand, or if you're an archi student, or if you're someone in engineering, the vision for the building, I guess. So um, when we're talking about your case studies, it's very useful to write out the content first, because it gives you a foundation on how you should design your portfolio as a whole anyway. So after you go through all that, you've already narrowed down the things that at least the things that your audience wants to know or are looking for in a portfolio. You already have like a few pages of the works that you've done already down pat. It's time to present your work. So I think this is for me like the fun part, but it's also a part wherein um, if you let it if you allow it to be parang dyan ka na sa stop when you're about to like publish your work. That's where you parang second guess yourself. So I'll talk about it more about that later on. So essentially, when we present our work, we're considering two things. Um, for me, I think you're considering two things. One is what kind of visuals do I want to accompany my case studies with? And the next one is what medium should I publish or should I present my work in? So there could be like multiple considerations for you. It's mostly a preference thing, but for me, in terms of visuals, what you're really looking for is for your visuals to complement your case study write-up. So you would want visuals that don't really upstage your write-ups, your case studies, but at the same time, it doesn't bore your audience when they're reading through your case studies. Your visual should also show the strength of your work and why it's great. So going back to the example of, let's say you're a social media manager, or so you're a brand manager, sorry, you're a brand designer, um, show your work in the context wherein you designed it to be great. Like let's say you designed an IG story that really allowed your client to parang skyrocket their sales. Then show your work as an IG story using mocks on your portfolio. If you're a UX UI designer, what's the best way you can show your work to your potential clients? And I think not just yung output again, yung outcome na naging yung naging outcome ng output, but also have visuals for your process. If you can map out user flows or the way you understand certain paradigms or certain contexts, that's also good for your potential audience to really try to understand. And if you're trying to really give it to that particular audience, I think it's a really good thing to add. Another thing that you would want to consider when in terms of like presenting your work is the medium in which you want to present your work. So it could be a slide deck, it could be a website, it could be a social media page, etc. So going back to my decision, I guess, in terms of like keeping my portfolio in terms of like a slide deck or like a really limited medium. I think my thought process there is that I wanted my portfolio to be very modular. So I also work with like really small businesses to improve their branding. So I have to have like a slide deck for branding ready, and I also have to have my product design portfolio ready. Of course, eventually I'd want to move into like a website portfolio, but for right now, parang a slide deck or a presentation deck fits my needs in the way I communicate my value to my stakeholders or my potential audience, right? So for you, if ever, it could be something that it could be a medium wherein you can show off your skills the best. So let's say you're an engineer, you're a front-end engineer. It's probably better to show off your skills through a website. wherein you can use the latest frameworks and the latest technologies to really wow your audience. If you're, let's say, you're a social media, sorry, brand manager, mas okay siguro if you have your portfolio in, let's say, a social media page like Instagram or Facebook. Also try to consider what's best for your audience as well. So if, let's say, we're talking about Steph kanina, if Steph, a CEO of a logistics company, they probably don't have market, or they probably don't have people in Instagram, depending on what kind of logistic company they are. If they get, let's say, they're a B2B business, they're probably more of like corporate leaning. So what would make sense for them is a slide deck that is personalized for them, because usually corporate audiences like pag personalized yung mabibigay mo sa kanila, like gagawa ka ng portfolio mo, tapos lalagay mo sa kanila, oh, made especially for Steph's logistics company. So that's also plus points, and that's a way in which we could communicate to your chosen audience better. So let me just show you some examples. I like looking at designers who have already been hired, I guess, in terms of like design portfolios. But I also enjoy looking at some of my favorite companies' design blogs. So Spotify has one, Intercom has one, I think Facebook has one. So in terms of like use Spotify's page, what I really like about it is that it has content, it has case studies, but it also plays really well with like their strong design language. So nakikita mo matingkad yung colors, they're really playful with the animations, merong hero image, and all of their case studies are there. And if you look into their case studies, hindi lang siya visuals. Visuals plays a big part, but what you really look into is the way they design things, right? So they outline their design challenge, kung ano yung natutunan nila, what they learned from the project, and things of that nature. If you plan on using Instagram, it's also a really good platform to showcase some of the visual aspects of your design. So I have here two examples. This is from a designer. She's Carol Huang, and Dan Matutina, someone who's going to be speaking later on in this week, and I really like his work. So for Carol, she uses her Instagram not really to showcase some of her design work or her UI work, but really to publish some of the insights that she has, or yung mga lessons that she has learned. Because she's a UX designer, this could be very valuable for her in terms of like attracting people who are looking for UX designers who are very particular with process, but at the same time helping out with other young designers out there who wants to learn, which is really good. At the same time, you have Dan here, who is a designer and illustrator. Instagram is a good way to like really showcase some of the work that you have and really gain a following for it. What's nice about the way Dan does his, I think, post is he uses the carousel feature of Instagram to really show detail of his work, which is good for like, let's say, print work or brand work, depending on a client's use. So in the end, in terms of like presenting or publishing your work, I think the most important thing is whatever medium or whatever type of visual you choose, please, please, please always try to publish your work and get your work out there. If you feel like it's not perfect yet, it will probably not be perfect if you wait it out. So just publish it. Publish it when before your mind thinks na it's not enough. So once you finish it, don't think about it twice, just publish it. You can always iterate what you put out. You can always, delete, you can always change, you can always evolve from the things that you put out. And I think that's the beauty of it. At least you get your work out there, at least you get feedback, and it will help you really shine as a designer. So that's number 3, or present your work. Essentially, what we've done here is try to like go through like a mini process of considering what you need to work on for your portfolio. But I guess in terms of like wrapping things up, I think for us as designers, it's really hard to think about our portfolios without feeling anxious, right? Because in some ways it represents you, and when it does, you connect it with your own self-worth and your own um, things that you think about yourself. And I think that's why it's so hard for us to like really work on our portfolios. But I think the key here is trying to detach ourselves, trying to calm our ego down, or trying to detach the ego from creating our portfolio and just really try to show our best work. And hopefully, our best work reflects the best of us. I think it helps for us to have something really tangible to hold on to or to go back to, like a system or a framework, like case studies or a really limited medium like Instagram, so that you can focus on showing your work instead of like thinking about all of these external things like, oh, is it going to work on a website? Is it going to be relevant to these people? So that in the end, you can focus on showing your work and ultimately who you are. So I think, yeah, that's the end of the talk segment. For the workshop, you can access the template that we'll be working on here in this link. I'll also send it on the chat. But before we end, I guess I'll be open for questions while you're setting up your worksheets. Zero, we can have like 10 minutes to like take a break and set up our worksheets. And in the meantime, I can answer some of the questions that you have. Yeah, thanks for listening for this first part of the session.
Okay, sige. Let's look at some questions while waiting. I love your talk, Jiggy. I am
Thank you,
personally
guys.
inspired. So what do you guys think? Chat down below. I-validate naman natin si Jiggy, how he's doing so far. What are your learnings? What are you excited about? Ayan. So how are you, Jiggy naman, so far?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Yes, come on now. I love your energy as
Okay.
a host. Okay, let's see.
Okay, let's check out some questions. Ayan, parang talk show. Ayan, parang talk
Let's
show
go.
for you. Okay, so a very simple question, Jiggy. What everyone wants to know is, what font are you using? Ayan, I love that question. Design is our passion. What font are you using
Yes,
now?
love it. So yung font na ginagamit for the headers, it's called Recoleta. Recola. Shit. Basta Recoleta. Spell out yun na lang. I think it's a pretty popular font. It's also something na very in right now. You'll see like a lot of companies use it. And then yung body font naman is Lacerite. Lacerite. I don't know how to pronounce it. But I'll make sure to message it to you guys to chat.
Wow, I love that. Guys, take note of the notes. Ayan, the tips and tricks from Jiggy. Ayan. So, Jiggy, we also have another question. Parang ano lang eh, no? Boyabunda.
Yeah.
Boyabunda.
Fast talk.
So,
Let's go.
yeah. So, what if you are into multiple fields with different audiences? Is it best to create separate portfolios? For example, different for UI design and different for graphic design?
Right. So it really depends on like your capacity as well. Tsaka the field or the, let's say, the company or the job that you really want to enter. So and oh, sorry. Also, if you're a passive or an active job seeker. So what an active or a passive job seeker means is that pag active, you're looking for a job or you're looking for projects to work on talaga. Pag passive, you're working on something right now, you just want to put something out there, just, for continual growth. If you're an active user, you probably want to curate something very specific for the company that you're eyeing for. And then if you're passive, whichever medium you're comfortable in putting out your work is okay. In terms of like creating multiple portfolios, I think in terms of my experience, that's why I opted to create like slide decks as well. And I think eventually, if I do like a website, I'll probably still create like special slide decks for, let's say, companies or clients that I want to work with talaga, just so I can control the messaging and parang cater that portfolio to the things that they're looking for. And of course, like as UX designers or parang as people really into like design thinking or user-centered design, you you value that delight that you create when people parang feel like something is created for them, right? So in terms of like creating different portfolios, I feel like it's a use case to case basis. If you really need to, if you feel like you really need to go for it, but if you're not really like, if you're just passive, um, having it in one website or in one Medium account, let's say, is
Wow. Okay, I love that. Yes. So different. So like, yun, may tips na from Jiggy. Also, Jiggy, people are curious. How did you get into design, and what kind of designer are you? Ayan. People are interested in your personal life. Spill the
yeah.
tea.
Okay, let's spill the tea out here. For me, what nag-start ako sa PowerPoint. So I think that's why I really like enjoy making PowerPoint presentations because when I was a kid, I used to create a lot of PowerPoints for school. Tapos binobonggahan ko talaga as in lahat ng animations. Let's go. Nung nauso yung Prezi, yun, nag-Prezi ako. And I think that gave me like yung starting point ko with design in terms of like yung fundamentals, like playing with text, playing with colors, playing with shapes. In terms of like going into UX design, it really started out with UX-Op. When I entered college, sinabi ko lang, I'll go MIS because I think gusto ko tech, pero ayoko mag-code. I mean, ayoko yung parang, I'm not about that code life. So parang MIS was like a really happy medium between like business and code. So doon ako pumasok. And then UX Soc really gave me like an idea of what, you know, product design or UX design is, which is like a combination of like art, design, and technology, which was a win-win for me. So that's how I got started. So you guys are pretty lucky to have like UX up with you guys right now because it's solid.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Jiggy, as a com-major, nakarelate ako sa sinabi mo, PowerPoint gang. Ayan, yung mga
PowerPoint
pabibig.
gang.
PowerPoint gang. Ayan, yung mga laban-laban na custom animation. I love that. We hate templates. We
No,
make our own.
ma'am.
Ayan, I love that. Also, people are clamoring, can you share your presentation daw? Can we get a
For
copy
sure,
of
for sure.
PowerPoint? Ayan. So I
Yeah,
could
I'll
see
send it
people,
to you guys na lang din.
yeah, I could see people nga sa chat, ano daw, branding God, branding things.
Sorry, di naman.
Ayan. So then
It's
again,
UX of things.
yes. So you could visit the link sent by Jiggy. So we could begin with the workshop talaga. Ayan. So guys, patikim pa lang pala ni Jiggy yung yung talk. Ay, patikim. Ganon.
Oh, may patikim talaga.
Ayan. Ayan. Thank you for the bit.ly. Ayan. So sige, let's answer more questions. So, this is a very interesting question. How can you write case studies when you don't have any experience yet?
Right. So I think that's a really important question to ask kasi a lot of people, especially like when I was starting out, I really don't have any case studies to show. So I guess the first thing that you really should look for is when you're still in school, in particular, experience ko sa Ateneo, when you can work with orgs like UXOF or any orgs that are allowing you to work in your creative field, use that as a case study. Even though it's not parang it will hindi siya parang from a company or it didn't really like return actual money. I think what's important and what I emphasized before is that yung important dun is yung process is ma-articulate mo. So let's say you're second year college and you're part of an org and then parang they ask you to make a poster. So how do you make a case study out of that? You make a case study na parang, okay, I made this poster. This is how I decided what to put on it. This is how I talked to our project head kung ano dapat ilagay doon. This is how I coordinated with the people who needs to print it if you need to print the poster. And stuff like that, even though it's like a really small project, it shows like how you work with other people. So really like try to look for those projects that you probably have already have done before. Pero if like zero talaga, you can start with things you're passionate about or things that you really care about. So let's say you care about the environment or you care about, HIV awareness, you care about, the government. What are some of the areas na may mga problems or what can you parang try to gauge na pwede kong gawing study. Of course, not for the sole purposes of creating a case study lang, di ba? But you really wanted to help. So that could be a good starting point as well. So yeah, there's always a lot of things that you can write about. You can use the structure or the template for. You just really like try to change your perspective and like think about parang the people who are eventually going to read this. What do you want them to feel? Or what do you want them to know about you as a designer or as someone who is going to work for them in the future?
Yes, thank you for that. Actually, that's a very good like hack for those who haven't had like any experience working on a case study. So like working with what you already have and finding value into that. Well,
Yeah.
gano'n.
Also, value
Value.
add. Also, I think Laura in the chat, Laura Ang also said, hello, Laura, shout out, Mom Lors. Also said that you should join hackathons and competitions, which is really useful then to create your case study. One of the case studies I've had for the longest time is when I joined a hackathon or a competition. And then that's what I used to like present some of the things that I'm capable of doing. So yeah, that's really good. So get yourself out there. Do something.
Ayan. Thank you, Miss Laura. A very good tip also. Ayan, sumali kayo ng competitions and hackathons. So
Marami ang
maybe,
UX of yan.
ayan, oo nga, guys, pakiabangan ng ating event. Ayan, shameless plug kahit wala pa, diba? So probably right now we could start with the workshop.
All right. So I'll share my screen. So this is going to be like a really short workshop. I just really wanted to go through the template that we have with regards to creating your oh, yeah, yeah, okay, creating your portfolio. Can you guys see my screen? Okay naman. Yeah, okay, great. So I sent you guys a portfolio case study template I found online. So I looked at different templates online, and I think this one really captures what we really want out of a template. So what we'll do for this workshop is I'll go through some of these things in detail, see what things that we can parang kind of like parang improve, things that you can include para magka-plus points kayo sa potential audience nyo. But as we're going along, you can, if you have like a project in mind or if you have something in mind that you want to create, you can follow along and try to write down things that you want to write into like a case study. Okay, so let's start with zooming in. Yeah, into the template. So the first one is a project title and a subtitle. So people will ask if necessary ba yung subtitle or what kind of project title will be enticing. So again, it really depends on you. But I think the subtitle is important because it gives more context to your project. So let's say the project title is, let's say for HIV awareness, HIV awareness social media campaign. And it gives you a good idea of what the project outputted or what the project is. But at the same time, a really good short, concise subtitle can give you like good context on what you were able to accomplish with that project. So like as a social media manager, I was able to set up a really effective campaign to spread HIV awareness, so something like that. So yeah, that's project title. Definitely you can be creative with your project titles. It's really up to you. Also a pro tip that you can take is that if you know how to do SEO. So SEO is search engine optimization. So that's parang the framework or the idea behind pag nagsa-search ka sa Google, bakit yung first link yung nag-appear. If you're really good at that, and if you're putting your portfolio online, you might want to take advantage of some keywords that you want to put in your project title or your head para when people are searching for, let's say, a product designer or a brand manager, ikaw yung lalabas doon, yung portfolio mo yung lalabas doon. So client, company, project type is pretty explanatory. What kind of project it is, for what company or what organization, and then project date or yung timeline. So yeah, may mga guides dito about how many lines it should be. Again, you should take this as like more of like a guideline, a guide or a framework, not really like a really strong um, requirement. So project date or timeline is important because yun nga, like what I mentioned before, it allows the audience to know how long you took to create a project or to create the project. Before when I was starting out, mabagal kasi ako as a person. So I would really like take my time with projects. So there's like certain ways you can I guess tackle parang the timeline thing that can really suit the expectations of of your potential employer, potential client. Again, what you want is yes, you want to make sure that you're catering to their needs, but at the same time, you should be transparent in your abilities. Then, like if you can't really do something overnight, like sige, gawa tayong website one night lang. If hindi mo talaga kaya yun, don't try to push yourself. Something to emphasize about the next section, your role, is that again, what I mentioned before is that it's important to take ownership and to take the things that you actually did as a project. Um, Make sure to articulate it very well because what it shows is that well, one, you're a team player, but number two is that you have initiative, and a lot of recruiters will resonate with that. If you initiated for a team, let's say you're part of the team, you initiated and you do user research, you're adamant that you do user research first, and the company you're coming into is really into UX or design, then it's going to parang magiging maganda siya sa paningin nila. Yeah, again, so project summary is like the summary of the main three parts that I mentioned before. So this could be like a 1 or 2 paragraphs that summarizes your project. So yung project summary, it kind of acts like you're abstracting like formal papers. So when when recruiters or your clients are looking through your portfolio, ito yung parang blurb na makita nila na apart from the title and the subtitle, this will give them an idea of what their project is about. So it doesn't really have to be below the role, or again with any of these parts you can mix match yung format niya or yung layout niya. But the key thing about the project summary is that you give them a taste. I give them an idea of what the project is about. So again, going into like the main problem, what you really want to articulate is ano yung naging problem that your client or your company approached you with. If you're starting out in a hackathon, let's say, ano yung naging situation, ano yung context na binigay sa'yo sa hackathon, what are the things that you need to understand, and what were some of the, I think, some of the restrictions or some of the limitations that you have as part of that hackathon. So really position yourself as someone who's ready to take on the problem or who was ready to like take on the challenge of that company or that client. So parang, oh, this company was looking for someone who has this blah, or someone who has expertise in this, someone who has experience with this. They're really looking for someone who can solve this particular problem. And then you want to position yourself as someone who helped, contributed to solving that problem, which is what the solution part is for. It's good to have like for the solution part, apart from like the write-ups, it's also good to have like very key visuals that you wanna show, especially like what I mentioned before, sa visuals, yung process mo. Wireframes, very good to have also in the solution. Stakeholder interview documentation or like pictures, if you have them, That's really important to showcase because it gives the recruiter an idea na, okay, if they're going to present this, or sorry, if they're going to work with me, ito yung gagawin nila. And I think that's good on our end and stuff like that, right? So what's also key things now you probably can mention in the solution is how you work with other people and how you were able to um, get the information that you needed from the situation. So from user interviews or stakeholder interviews, surveys, stuff like that. That could also be worth mentioning in this part because at the end of the day, it gives you an idea on how you were able to solve the problem as a designer. And again, what we want to achieve dun sa magiging case study mo, we want to communicate how you get your professional value to your potential clients or your potential employers. So this is how I was able to solve this problem for this client before using my yung in-outline ko dito sa case study nito. This is how I gave them value. Hopefully, this is something I can also do for you. So it's really about trying to position yourself as someone who can contribute to their company as well. Outcomes. So let me just re-emphasize in this part. What's really important is you see yung parang meron kang malasakit dun sa project mismo or you have care dun sa project in not just treating it as like a snapshot of what you did in terms of the scope of the timeline or the resources, but also in a bigger picture in terms of yung vision tsaka yung context ng client or yung company or yung big problem, right? Kasi what case studies are is essentially snapshots of the work you've done in a particular period of time, a particular number of resources. But the outcomes section really gives you the opportunity to say, okay, so during nung I was working with you guys, I really thought that there was a need for us to create another team that addresses this issue I faced during my work. Or that could be something a part of your reflections or your next steps or your lesson learned. Or you can say na parang, when I entered this project, the company was facing this, this, and this. Coming out of the project, I really want to see the company take these steps so that the outcomes of their projects would be more in favor of what they want to do. So that second example gives your audience an idea na may pake pala siya. May pake pala siya sa ginagawa namin or sa organization or sa company namin. Next steps is important. Last example. So next steps are important because it gives your audience a sense of how you can identify future work, or more importantly, how to identify yung gaps that your project or that your team left behind. So when you're doing a project, diba, you're trying to improve a certain aspect. If it's in like a really limited time, you can only improve like a part of it. So when you improve something, you're leaving behind something. You're leaving behind some gaps in terms of the process, in terms of the product, in terms of the brand, stuff like that. So this is the part where you can say na, oh, for our next steps, we want to augment yung ginawa namin dito and add more features, add more campaigns, add more things, or decrease features, decrease campaigns, scale back, go back to the drawing board, relearn some things, etc. So yeah, I was rambling, but I think the main idea of like the outcome space is really na you're showing care for the project that you did beyond what you talked about dun sa case study. So that shows initiative and that shows vision as a designer. So yeah, so that's basically I think what we have as a portfolio, what people expect usually from a portfolio. Again, You should treat this as more of like a template, and not really something that you should follow. If you feel like there are parts here that doesn't work for you, experiment with other things that might. A pro tip for people, a pro tip for like young designers, or parang even like I think experienced designers. Um, it saves time, or parang it gives you a better sense of like how to scope out your, sorry, how to write your case study if you do it during your project. So let's say you're already in a project, you're in the middle of the project, you're working with your stakeholders. Take the time to actually like write down the parts already, or like fill out your template. Let's say problem pa lang yung nasa-solve mo. Sulat mo na yun, kahit wala yung other parts. Because it allows you to not only like save time after the project, kasi at least you have a case study already, but at the same time have like a point of self-reflection regularly, na parang oh, this thing pala is not really like aligning to my values, this thing is not aligning to the process that I have. And if you do it in the middle of like a project, parang you still have the chance to course correct some things or do something differently. So that's gonna also be like a really useful thing for you. So that's a pro tip. Another pro tip is to another pro tip is to make sure na you design your portfolios in a way na it's wait lang. In a way that it's modular. So what I mean by that is that parang before, diba, we mentioned there was a question regarding whether I should maintain multiple portfolios. So if you have like let's say a portfolio, para may case study template na, diba? So if you have like a way wherein you can pull out different case studies and like put them together in like a big body of work, that could be your portfolio already. Let's say you have like 9 bodies of work, and then you want to do something very specific for a client. You can send them a special link. Let's say if your portfolio is on a website, not only shows like a couple of very special projects that are related to that client. That's something very useful to have. So you're not really like you're not I guess wasting time on trying to recreate the same portfolio with like different case studies, different things. You can just cherry pick the case studies or the works that you really are proud of and are really relevant to the thing that you're trying to pursue, and present that. So that's another one. Yeah. So if you guys have any more questions with regards to like the actual writing, some of the copy, any advice on copy, you can talk to Laura. Joke lang. You can hit me up on my anywhere. So like I think in my presentation I put like my handle. My handle is at Jiggy Villanueva. That's everywhere, in Instagram, in Facebook, or in LinkedIn. And there you can connect with me, and I'll be happy to answer some of your questions.
Okay, thank you, Jiggy. Ayan, grabe, your talk and your workshop has been really helpful in taking, that step in starting or probably improving our big, fat, hairy portfolio. Ayan. And I'm sure our UXers would be excited to try out your tips and tricks to strengthen and communicate their professional value. Yes, I've been taking notes. Yes.
Nice.
Next up, we will now be opening the floor for questions from the workshop. So please, then again, do not hesitate to ask questions through our Slido, ayan, flashed in your screen. So you may access it through the QR code flashed on the slide, or you may also click the link in the chat box. So right now, Jiggy, this is part 2 of our talk show, ayan. The netizens would like to talk to you, would like to ask you questions. And we have we have a comment actually. I'd like to thank you for this talk. That was super helpful. Ayan. Thank you
so much.
Ayan. Okay, we have other more questions. When you have projects that are worth presenting but have NDA, how do you add it to your portfolio, and how do you show the visuals?
Yeah, so this is a good question, Yulo, kasi um for I think for the most part, if you're like working with like corporations or like even big startups, they will give you like an NDA or they will show you those things. So I think one of the things that you can do is that at the start of your when you're starting out a project with a client, make sure that you have a provision dun sa magiging contract nyo or magiging agreement nyo na, oh, at the end of this, can I put this in my portfolio? So have that talk as early as possible with your client para at the end of it all, yung work na binigay mo, they can actually let you show it to other people. But even if you do that, there are a lot of cases wherein may NDA talaga yung company. So what you can do next is with your client or the company's permission, you can create a case study that doesn't mention their name, doesn't mention any sensitive information, and just I guess parang mentions maybe an industry or a specific problem in very generic terms. And you can even like change up the colors just so it doesn't really like really give an idea to the people na oh, it's from this company or it's this and the thing. And you can probably do that. Again, you should be very transparent and be open with your client. Show them yung portfolio, sorry, yung case study mo that you want to present before you publish it. At the same time, your client or the company might be more inclined to agree if, let's say, you keep it in like a very confidential manner. Like, let's say, you just show it to particular clients sa slide deck or sa email nila, and at the same time, parang it's on under confidential mode. Walang makakita iba. If you can assure them that of that, you can show your work. Um, but yun nga, I think the key there is trying to like talk it out with your client initially at the start pa lang na, oh, I'm planning to put this in a portfolio. Is it okay if I present this afterwards we're done with our project? That's a really good question.
Yeah. Did you actually experience any experience like na ganon?
Yeah, may actually there's parang a lot of like big companies will do that. That's why I think for some designers, I think some designers that you may know, parang yun nga, they don't really have like a portfolio or parang you already know that they worked on this thing, but why can't you like find information on that? So that's because they're probably under NDA, and I think nung what I can say. So yeah, maybe like NDA. Come on now. Pero like in one of the projects that I've had with a team, actually, it was under NDA. So what we did was just try to remove the name, really keep it anonymous and ambiguous. Pero yung important dun is yung problem ng company and then how you solve it.
Okay, thank you for that. Actually, we do have more questions. So, Jiggy, then again, the netizens are curious. How do you personally keep track of potential portfolio entries? Ayan. Are you a list lover? Are you a Notion Nation? Are you docs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Notion Nation. I love Notion. I think that's one of like the best ways to like keep track of your portfolios. Kasi I think if you document your case studies there, diba, parang it's already kind of like a portfolio in itself. Like I know there's some tips and tricks where you can
Yeah.
share yung page na yon, tapos yun yung parang magiging portfolio mo.
Mm-mm.
And even if like you're not like a fan of Notion or parang you much rather use docs or like pen and paper, um, you can also do that in terms of like keep tracking your portfolio. Me personally, what I use Notion for like the write-ups, and I use like one Figma file for like some of the visuals. So may mga potential things na I'm working on there, but I don't, again, I don't really get to like publish. But hopefully I get to publish soon. So yeah, personally, that's what my workflow is.
Ayan. I am back.
Okay.
Ayan. Guys,
Hello.
wala lang. Quick, ano lang. Hello?
Hello,
Ayan.
hello.
Sabotage by Globe. Ayan. Sorry po. I am back. Quick, ano lang. Quick refresher. Okay, we have more questions. So, how can, Anonymous says, how can we include documentation of our work without making the portfolio too long? Ayan.
Yeah, again, that's a really good question. I think in terms of like, diba, we said na parang a framework or a guideline can really help you like try to push out these works as much as possible. I think if you've tried to make your portfolio too long or you write up too long, it might end up making you second guess. So what a good way of doing that is trying to put like character limits or word limits to some of the things that you're writing down. So let's say for your write up, for the problem statement, let's say if kaya mo under one tweet, 280 characters lang yung problem statement. It's a really good challenge to have. It also trains you to be more concise and trains you to be articulate and really precise with your words. So putting like a character limit would be a good idea. Another thing to consider then is yung medium that you chose. So let's say you chose Instagram. Yun nga, like what I mentioned before, ano ba yung, you'll find like a lot of resources online as to like ano yung characters yung patok sa mga chikiting joke. Kaya ano yung mga characters na yung patok sa SEO. So
Yeah.
for titles, usually it's 100, like it's 70 characters, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Or like some around that number. So those I think insights are there for a reason. It's based on data. Na parang for most people, ito yung parang character length for a title that really works. But if you're looking for like a framework or a guide, that could also be something that you can look into. But at the end of the day, you can always user test. So have your friend read it, have your parents read it, have your sister read it. If they think it's too long, it's probably too long, and then they can probably help you edit it as well.
Okay, medyo magbabalik college pala, no? Parang may word limit, ganon.
Thanks to Roman, dapat.
Yes, tama yan. Okay, more questions. So, okay, sige. The latest question is, I'm a technical lead shifting to UX career. So my case studies would be mostly about technical stuff. So are those recommended to be used as case studies?
Again, I think it really depends on the type of audience that you're catering to. Let's say the next job or the job that you really want to, even though it's in a UX leaning position, is still in a very technical company. If that's what they value, I think they will value your insight dun sa I think technical aspects of your work. But if you're let's say most of your case studies are really technical, if there's a way to like translate some of the spirit or yung parang I think the main idea of your work into something that, let's say, a UX designer or a lead UX designer or a product manager can understand, that could be very valuable for you because it gives you the position that, as someone who has experience in like a technical role, I can be like a bridge to, your company who has these kinds of people na parang more technical leaning and yung product side or yung parang UX design side. So if you can balance that through your write-up or through the visuals that you can do, it can be very valuable. Or if you feel like that, as in sa labag talaga sa loob mo na parang you can't really like turn this into like a UX case study. Again, if you're starting out in your career in UX, there's a lot of opportunities out there to really solve really important problems or find really important use case as parang cases to work on. So again, join hackathons, join competitions, find something maybe in your industry if you're something like very technical na you found that can be solved by UX or solved by design, and try to work on that as well. So even like really fast case studies can give you like a case study worthy of like presenting to recruiters.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So actually, Avery Spencer iPhone. Avery Spencer's iPhone said, "Hi, idol." Ayan.
Shout
Grabe, ang dami
out
kong...
kay Sir Avery.
Ayan. Okay, so we have
Smart.ph.
questions. Ayan, magtatanungan na tayo, Jiggy. Let me ask you more questions. So how can you
Game lang.
showcase your UX research skill in your portfolio, or do you not include that in your portfolio? Ayan, UXR.
So yeah, again, those kinds of skills are very important, especially UX research skills. In particular, if you're doing a very like a summary of your work, you can put like a high level process of your UX research dun sa solution or dun sa methodology that you use, and make sure that that can really showcase your strength as a UX researcher. Ano yung naging outcome nung um, naging work mo as a UX researcher. Um, you don't necessarily have to hide it, or you don't necessarily have to like keep it from your portfolio. I really feel like, me personally, that's really valuable to have. It shows process, it shows intention and care. It also shows your skill as a UX researcher. Um, I think what what we're trying to distinguish from is yung parang, oh, should I show yung parang number of people I interviewed, ano yung mga different insights nila? Should I show a graph? Should I show a table of those insights? I think in terms of that kind of content, you want to make it easy to read and concise. So if you want to show na you made an effort to interviewing like 180 users, wow, galing mo
Wow.
te. If you're made an effort to like ask a lot of people for insights, and you should definitely mention that in your case study, but maybe not like yung parang tabular results nung parang insights. Maybe like take the very prominent ones and just mention that I interviewed 180 people. You know? So I guess to answer your question, your UX research work definitely deserves a place in your portfolio. If you're more of like a parang end-to-end UX researcher, end-to-end UX designer, you can put that into one of your solutions. But if you're someone that's specializing in UX research, definitely you can find a template, or you can even use the template that we talked about to showcase ano yung mga skills na you exhibited na you think a UX researcher should have.
Okay, thank you. So even in UXR, you could also put it in your portfolio. Ayan, I love that. Okay, so there's also another more question. So I plan to take an internship for an industry I'm familiar with, but don't have much content in my portfolio. What can I do to increase my chances of getting hired? Ay, wow. Ayan, a caliber.
Yeah,
Period.
let's go.
Period.
Log into caliber.com, make an account, and joke lang. In terms of, so what I mentioned before, diba? This whole talk is about portfolios. Or again, it's like one piece of the puzzle lang of trying to communicate your professional value. There's also other ways that you can enter a field or enter an industry or a company without necessarily having like a very formal portfolio. And it has happened before. Like if you ask a lot of yung, I think some of the alumni ng UX Soft, may mga tao dyan na parang got a role without necessarily having a formal portfolio. So what are the other pieces of the puzzle that you need to consider? So number one is syempre yung resume mo. That's very important. Yes, caliber. So making sure that your past work is reflected there. At the same time, yung I think yung CV mo and stuff like that. But apart from like the document or artifacts of it all, what's really important for you to like land your dream job is your network. So I think in UX, we really parang try to make sure na we parang teach you guys na parang it's important for you guys to like create really meaningful relationships with people that you want to work with in the future. So yeah, networking is not just something like very cold or parang something that's very transactional. It's about relationship building. So I'm assuming that since you're very familiar with the industry, you already have some people who you follow or some people that you know inside the industry that you can talk to, and then that can become very valuable to you in terms of like landing the job that you want or the internship that you want. If you are especially like well connected to let's say a company, yeah, an employee of the company that you want to enter in, you can ask, oh, I really don't have like a portfolio yet, pero can you like give me can you like tell them that I'm really like capable, I'm really like this, I'm really like that, and I have other things that I can show you that can prove that worth professional value to you. Can you like talk to your HR or can you talk to your CEO about it? So again, parang portfolio is very important for finding jobs and like attracting people, attracting like-minded people, attracting like-minded clients or companies. But at the same time, um, companies look to a lot more things than just your portfolio. So your willingness to learn, your process, your mindset, lahat yan lumalabas sa interview or if you talk to a person inside the industry or a company. So that's why, relationship building is really important.
Okay, thank you. Wow, networking is also important as
Let's
well.
go.
Yes. Okay, so, oh, this is a good one. Mapapamath tayo. How many case studies would you recommend to place in a portfolio? Should it only be one? Yan.
Okay, so that's a good question too. I would say parang a good minimum would be three. Like, three is, I don't know, perfect number. Parang I love you, tatlo yun. So, 3 words yun. So, I think three would be a good number of case studies you can put. It's parang it just feels more complete and it can show like three, three different aspects of your work. So, let's say you focus more on UX research on one. You can have another one that focuses on a different field and then another one that different field. So it doesn't feel like it's too little or content, pero like three is okay as a minimum. If you're doing it on a website, you can definitely have yeah. So like what Alexis mentioned, parang one could work as in if it's really detailed and it's really incredible and it's really parang eye-catching. So let's say you're applying for a Philippine company here and then you tackle something that's really global or international. That one portfolio piece, if it's like everything that they're looking for in you, that could be super great. A lot of startups, a lot of companies got their funding from one pitch deck or like not even pitch deck, right? Parang like really small amounts, but if you can show your value, can show your skill set and within those limitations or within that one case study, you're good to go.
Okay, ayan. So actually, that will be our last question for tonight. And I know we have more questions in the Slido, and I'm sure you have more in your minds. So don't forget to just connect with Jiggy in his socials. Ayan, Jiggy, like, don't, like, hit up, like, him sa socials na lang.
Yeah.
Like, chat him, ask him questions, learn more, continue to grow. Ayan, I see you. I see hearts. Yes, thank you. And then again, thank you,
Shout out to
Jiggy, for the
Zed. Hello,
insight.
Zed.
Ayan, they're showing you some love in the chat. Yan, idol daw, idol. Ayan. So it seems like our participants have also learned so much today because I did, and I hope everyone did as well. So now let us proceed to the awarding of the certificate of
Wow,
appreciation
my
to our
certificate.
speaker. Yes, let us appreciate you, Jiggy. Let us validate you. So, UX Society would like to award a certificate of appreciation to Mr. Villanueva. Ay, wow, Mr.
Yes.
Villanueva. That reads, this certificate is awarded to Jiggy Villanueva in gratitude for speaking at this year's UX&Chill 2020 Experience Digital with the topic Beginner's Guide to a UX Design Portfolio. Given on this first day of December 2020. Ayan. Please virtually accept the certificate. Ayan. Yeah, that
Thank
is
you. Thank you,
beautiful.
guys.
Thank you. Then again, everyone, let's give Mr. Villanueva or Jiggy a loud clapping emojis of applause. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, clap, clap. I see the love in the chat. Ayan. We love the plug. Ayan. Like, comment, share sa Caliber Design. Ayan. So, and
Can I plug something pala?
yeah, sure, definitely.
So yeah, definitely like Caliber Design. That's where me, Laura, and Alexis work. We definitely would want to push out a lot more content for you guys. We might even have like internships up soon. We don't know yet, pero watch out for that. So yeah, talking about like connections in the industry you're familiar with, kami yun. So yeah, watch out for that too.
Okay, thank you. So probably, no, baka maging boss nyo si Jiggy or colleague.
God.
Let's watch out for that. Then again, thank you, Jiggy, and thank you, everyone, for attending day 2 of UX and Chill. And we are so happy to have you guys with us here today. And we have so much in store for you still for the week. So don't forget to mark your calendars. Ayan, wag niyo po kaming kakalimutan. Wag po tayong magkalimutan. So before we end, let us first take a photo together. Ayan, let us capture this moment. Capture this moment. Ayan. So, if you could turn on your cams, ayan, show us your beautiful faces. Ayan. Ang nakikita ko lang kasi si Jiggy. So, I would like to see who are the people, the wonderful people behind the camera. Ayan. Okay, so probably, yan, let's just wait for ayan, may mga mukha naman pala. Ayan, beautiful. Thank you, thank you. Ayan. Beautiful faces joining us. They're turning on their cams. Ayan. Thank you for blessing us with your presence in this fine evening. Fine evening. Okay, sige, let's just wait for everybody. Ayan. Okay, I could see, ayan, iba-ibang mga mukha para tayo nasa, I don't know, we could have met talaga face-to-face, but this would have to do now. Ayan, okay, I think probably everyone's good to go. So events would take a photo. Ayan, so please smile for a very long time because we have 2 slides. Ayan, ang gagandang ngiti naman kayo for us. Ayan, game. 1, 2, 3. Ayan. Okay, ngiti pa tayo. Ngiti pa. I love that, Miss Sophia. We have your brothers. That's your brother joining us. Ayan. I love that. All smiles this evening. Ayan. Okay, are we good? Are we good with the photo? Ayan. Okay, we're good with the photo. Ayan. Okay, sinasabi ni Miss Laura, ang may the best application win. Ayan, so they are waiting for your applications for possible interviews. Ayan, i-ready na po ang portfolio. Ayan, very exciting. So then again, before you go, wag muna po kayo umalis. Please answer our evaluation form for today's event through the link in our chat box or the QR code flashed on the slide. So it would be really great, to get your feedback as we want to make sure all of you enjoyed our events and our future initiatives. So yes, we love the feedback loop. Yes, iteration ka, girl. Ayun. So lastly, we would like to thank our co-presenter UXPH and our partners, the Ateneo Blue Consulting Group, the Computer Society of the Ateneo, the Developer Student Clubs Loyola, and the Ateneo Association of Communication Technology Management. So your support keeps this event going. And then again, this has been your Techie Tita, Mamacita, Weird Asado. Honored to be your host for tonight. So see you all tomorrow for day 3 of UX and Chill. It was so lovely to meet and hang out with you guys. Ayan, paalam. Sana masarap ang ulam ninyo. Ayan, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, thank you, Mr. Alexis. Funny pala ako. Ayun, maraming salamat. Go, go, go. Yes. Please answer our evaluations. Ayan.
Galing mo, sis.
Ay, thank you so much. Wait lang, Jiggy. Do you know si Ate Debs?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Blockmate ko siya.
Yeah, because kanina, my sister was like, oh, wait, nandito pa pala yung netizen. Sige, come stay here and chat with us. Ayan, my sister was like, Jiggy, familiar yon. Tapos sabi ko, blockmate daw ni Ate Debs. Ayan, nalang.
True.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. They're still joining us. Sige, magchikahan na lang tayo. How are you guys? How are
na
you
guys, mag-dinner na kayo.
Yes. Thank you for joining us.
Guys.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Ayan. So, i-interviewin na lang kita habang, okay. So, are you working remote or are you working? Gusto mo i-interview pa rin kita? Are you working remote?
Yeah, work from home kami for Caliber. I think even next year, we'll probably be work from home. So, fully remote.
Okay. So since probably your colleague is here, Mr. Alexis Collado. Good
Alexis
evening.
Collado.
Ayan.
Hello.
Ayan. Interviewin din natin. Iba joke lang. Okay na ba tayo? Chinichika ka rin. Oh, thank you so much from Iloilo. Ayan. Sana masaya kayo sa Iloilo.
Yes,
Ayan. I hope you are all safe also from the typhoon and everything. Ayan. Okay. Okay, thank you everyone. Goodbye. Yes. Thank you.